Hey everyone! So, to kick off this summer session of episodes, I decided to do a Patreon poll. Now let me tell you, a lot of people really wanted me to cover this one. You have no idea how taken back I was. You really want me to talk about Return of the Pink Panther, huh? Alright, let's do this!
41, take 7. Action!
While filming his new movie, The Return of the Pink Panther, Peter Sellers had a serious problem. He couldn't keep a straight face.
Excuse me.
Yes?
You know the way.
In fact, neither could anyone else.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am Emile Flournoy, communications expert and chief troubleshooter for the news.
The high-quality Owens Corning tub shower. Its slip-resistant surface has a, excusez-moi, a Pink Panther.
There are those among us who will use inferior video cassettes to watch their favorite programs. But then again, there are those who have seen the light and will only use TDK's famous Super Avalon cassettes. Whether it's films, drama, or sport, nothing captures those memorable moments with greater clarity, color, or more stunning reality than Super Avalon videotape from TDK.
After the success of the first Pink Panther movie and A Shot in the Dark, you'd think that a follow-up sequel would be in the cards. However, moviegoers had to wait 11 years for another Pink Panther movie to come out. Like, wow. Can you imagine that, just waiting for a sequel that long to one of your favorite movies? And I know it's customary that legacy sequels exist, but back then, this was kind of unheard of. So, what was the holdup? As it turns out, there were two very good reasons as to why it took some time to see Return of the Pink Panther in theaters. During production of A Shot in the Dark, director Blake Edwards and its star, Peter Sellers, would clash over certain gags, resulting in them to split up. But they patched things up for 1968's The Party and decided to come back on good terms.
I love a good laugh, don't you? Makes the world go round. It's good to have a laugh. Wonderful, wonderful.
Ironically, in the same year, a very peculiar movie came out from United Artists called Inspector Cluso, which was intended to be the third movie. Peter Sellers declined to reprise his role after he was denied script approval. Instead, Alan Arkin was hired based on his success with The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming. Needless to say, the movie was a critical and box office flop. Unlike James Bond, where the role could be easy to recast, Cluso was Sellers and Edwards' creation, so audiences could not imagine anyone else in this part. Full disclosure, I've not seen this movie, nor do I have any intentions to examine upon it, especially given what I've heard, and the trailers don't give me much hope either. Meanwhile, Blake Edwards crafted a story treatment for a true good Pink Panther sequel, but that was a bit of a hard sell towards United Artists, as due to a series of flops that him and Peter Sellers endured made them less hot properties in Hollywood and placing their careers on steady decline. British producer Lord Lou Grade made an agreement to finance two of Edwards' movies for his company, ITC Entertainment, given Grade wanted to work with his wife, Julie Andrews. One of them, The Tamarind Seed, was a modest enough hit, but not big enough to restore Edwards' Hollywood reputation. Thus, Lord Lou Grade and director Blake Edwards decided to make a Pink Panther sequel, which oddly enough was going to be a TV series at this time. United Artists saw no value in this whatsoever and decided to let them make their Pink Panther sequel in exchange for rights of the movie worldwide and a small percentage of the profits. The result? to say that United Artists and the Mirish Corporation didn't think audiences would be interested in seeing Return of the Pink Panther.
Oh, I'm ruined!
The first thing I want to talk about is the animated opening credits. Because the Pathé Freleng Studios were busy working on the Pink Panther shorts and other projects, Richard Williams' studio was hired instead, resulting in arguably one of the best opening title animations in this series. Richard Williams, and especially his studio, were well known for producing hand-drawn animation with great depth and quality. There's such a unique three-dimensional look that is literally eye-popping and adds a surreal nature from beginning to end. The sequence as a whole follows more than just a mischievous panther hiding from an inspector, but the whole thing feels almost like a throwback to cinema in general, from impersonating famous Hollywood legends like Charlie Chaplin, to small nods to Frankenstein, and... oh, that too! Special credit for this opening goes to Ken Harris and Art Babbitt. Harris was an animator who worked with Chuck Jones, and even contributed for the opening animation for the first Pink Panther movie. He would also do character animation for Richard Williams' company, including Scrooge for their Christmas Carol adaptation, and the Thief character for Williams' The Thief and the Cobbler. Art Babbitt, on the other hand, worked with Disney Animation Studios, bringing to life such characters like the Wicked Queen in Snow White, and developing the Goofy character, to name a few. In hindsight, it's interesting to note how two distinctively different animators from two different animation companies craft something really wonderful here. You have the non-verbal physical comedy that one would see in the Looney Tunes cartoons, adding into the visual beauty of a Walt Disney animated piece, placed together, rolled up in one, and beautifully painted pink. In many ways, Return of the Pink Panther can be seen as both a sequel and a reboot. It rehashes certain plot elements from the first movie while carrying over characters and concepts from A Shot in the Dark. Normally when a sequel rehashes certain things, it can be seen as a lazy move, but I feel there's enough here that's changed around to keep it fresh. The focus this time is squarely on the famous Pink Panther diamond, which is stolen from its rightful place in a museum from the fictional Lugash country. The Shah of Lugash believes Inspector Cluso is the only one who can recover the Pink Panther, given he was able to the last time when it was stolen. Unfortunately, the events of A Shot in the Dark have left Cluso demoted to 2 cop on street patrol, and his superior Charles Dreyfus is also demoted from commissioner to chief. Knowing that is just hilarious. I like how not only Cluso gets his rank downgraded, but also Dreyfus's title as well. It's just to add more fuel to his annoyance over Cluso.
Compared to Cluso, Attila the Hun was a Red Cross volunteer.
Once the bumbling inspector is called in, he joyfully takes the case and deduces the Phantom was most likely the culprit. But as it turns out, Sir Charles Lytton is really under retirement from his days of donning his thieving alter ego, even if he feels rather dull under the whole thing. However, he believes he's framed and decides to do some inspecting work of his own in Lugash, resulting in a lot of chases with the secret police. However, Cluso decides to trail Charles's wife, Lady Claudine, to a resort in Switzerland where she might hold the answer as to the whereabouts of the famed diamond. What I enjoy a lot about this entry is the change in focus. The first Pink Panther movie was originally about the Phantom character, but here it gets switched around. Instead, the focus is more on Cluso, and I believe this allows Peter Sellers to do a lot more here. The character is way more refined, even right down to the French accent and signature trench coat and hat look. Elements established in the previous movies are expanded upon here, from his inability to pronounce words right, to how his bumbling nature gets in the way of things.
It is against the law for you to play your musical instrument.
The law?
What?
You say is against the law?
Yes. There was some question as to whether the beggar or his Minky was breaking the law.
Minky?
What?
You said Minky.
That is correct, yes.
They even carry over his manservant Cato, played by Bert Kwok, who's always trained to keep the inspector on his toes, no matter what, by kicking the tar out of his superior.
Beware of Japanese waitress bearing fortune cookies.
As mentioned before, the Cluso and Cato fights were a major running gag in the later entries. They got more absurd and even more painful. For my money alone, this is arguably the best Cluso and Cato fight in the whole series. What makes this memorable to me is just how Kato attacks Cluso. On first watch, it's so unpredictable that it comes as a shock and a laugh. Can you imagine coming home from a normal day and suddenly get attacked by martial artists hiding in your refrigerator? Of all the places to hide, that just tickles my fancy. And it has, in my opinion, the best use of slow-mo. Sorry, just stalling for time. I don't want to get hit by a YouTube copyright. Just okay, do it. It's just that face he makes is so perfect. But oh, the cherry on this sundae of hilarity. Just the way he lands on the table, it's so perfect. Oh, and they said there was no art in any of the stunts produced for Jackass. It's not the measure of the stunt, it's the art of the stunt. That's why I love them too, minus the gross out stuff. Another aspect carried over is Cluso's will to disguise himself. What started as a small gag and a shot in the dark is elaborated more to allow Peter Sellers to do more character work. Even if we know it's Cluso in different looks and costumes, it was a good excuse to see Peter Sellers channel different characters and present how versatile he could be.
Monsieur Guy Gadebois at your service.
I am Emile Flournoy, communications expert and chief troubleshooter for the Nice Telephone Company.
Even if he still bumbles around, I like how Cluso tries to maintain the persona he's trying to channel and hide within. Considering the amount of health issues Peter Sellers was enduring, it's great to see how the timing of his slapstick is still there, even if it comes off a bit slow in spots. There's a great set piece where he investigates Lady Claudine's hotel room, leading to a variety of destruction that starts small but then it gets worse. And once you think things will calm down, something simple like trying to screw back in a light bulb goes a very long way. It gets funnier and funnier, building to a perfect cap-off. The more the scene goes on, new obstacles are added. You don't want to see it end so quick, and question, how many more twists can they add on? There's never a dull moment, and you're amazed at how far the jokes overlap each other at times. I even like Catherine Schell's performance as Lady Claudine, the wife of the Phantom. On first watch, you have no idea how to perceive her character, but let's just say due to one particular twist near the end, you start to see her in a different light on second watch. Without giving too much away, she's the only person that can see right through Cluso, and considering his bumbling persona, she decides to toy around with him, knowing how incompetent he can be. When he disguises himself as a telephone repairman, Claudine decides to give him a run for his money, and know this is a straight-up act. I like how she's fighting to hold back her laughter, knowing there's no possible way she'll be triumphed over this fool. It leads into a bit of cat and mouse play that's kind of interesting and funny, when you know how she's several steps ahead of Cluso. Oddly enough, there is a setup for a gag here that doesn't really have much payoff. In the final cut, Cluso learns that Lady Claudine is going to go skiing and decides to get dressed up in all this stuff and prep and everything, only at the last minute for Claudine to change her mind and do tennis instead, which would have resulted in an entire elaborate sequence where Cluso appears on the tennis courts dressed in skiing gear. It sounds bonkers and too good to be true. Can you imagine how hilarious that would have looked? Unfortunately, this particular sequence is lost to the sands of time on the cutting room floor and is not surface sensed. Clearly they weren't thinking of home media back then, and VHS was barely a thing. And true, stuff like the Towering Inferno and Superman were stuffed with 40 or 30 minutes of extra footage to pad itself over a two-night event, but I guess nobody was thinking the value of doing that to a comedy as well. It's a shame to see that great lengths were put to craft such hilarious material, but only to find itself cut out. Thankfully, we do get more of Herbert Lom as Inspector Dreyfus, and he's crazier than before. The pain of his life can be summed up by one name: Cluso. No matter what he does to relax or have time to himself, the very mention and thought drives him to insanity in ways unimaginable. The very thought of which even drives him to kill his own psychiatrist on accident.
And then suddenly, my hands go round his throat, and I begin to squeeze. Suddenly, my problem is solved. Doctor.
There's a great running gag where he keeps mixing up his cigarette lighter for his gun, and can you blame him seeing how similar it looks to his other one? And also, do they still even make those?
Don't just stand there, idiot. Call a doctor, and then help me find my doze.
I just love this character overall. You'd think Dreyfus would occupy his time or a means to distract himself, but no matter what he does, he can't seem to ignore how Cluso's incompetence, leading to pure success, can so easily frustrate him. As entertaining as Return of the Pink Panther is, there's one small weak spot I do have with it, and that's with the subplot involving the Phantom. Now, it's not really the subplot itself. Okay, I take that back. It is, given how it's so indifferent with the rest of the movie and its comedic tone, but they couldn't afford David Niven to return, and so instead they got Christopher Plummer instead. And he's not a bad actor, by all means, not at all. But the Phantom I always saw as more of a suave and charming character. And here, what they do with him just doesn't really work for me. Plummer seems to act a bit too serious, like he's auditioning for the next James Bond entry. In fact, his scenes at times feel like they were staged from an entirely different movie, given how fast-paced the action gets. It comes off feeling like a spy espionage drama. It clashes with the Cluso material, given how the two tones are so far apart. Admittingly, the only times it got interesting for me is when Charles tries to get information from a subordinate played by Graham Stark. You really feel bad for this guy, given how many times he gets his fingers broken.
If you're not working for the fat man, then who are you working for?
I haven't got a track anymore. I sold it.
It's the old Blake Edwards saying that if it's not painful enough, make it more painful. As much as I would love to go over deeper details of Return of the Pink Panther, this is one of those movies you gotta see on your own. It would be a complete disservice to describe what happens scene by scene by scene, and you're better off just checking it out. While it's not really as sophisticated as A Shot in the Dark, the comedy sure as hell does make up for it. There's great stunts and hilarious set pieces to keep you entertained. You can see why audiences really ate this one up before Spielberg came along with Jaws 1 month after The Return's debut. But I digress. It's a great sequel that is worth your time, but there's one problem. Remember I said earlier that United Artists had no interest in the movie and they decided to give Lord Lou Grade the rights to it? In fact, so much that after the film was a big hit, Lord Lou Grade had all the rights to the movie. All the rights. This is exactly why MGM had a pretty hard time getting all through that red tape just to acquire this entry. For a while, the rights to Return of the Pink Panther kept bouncing around, eventually being sub-licensed to Universal in 2006 under their Studio Focus features. Later on, MGM would acquire domestic theatrical rights, including television and digital distribution, with Universal still having rights to the movie worldwide. It wouldn't be until 2017 when Shout Factory would license deals with MGM and Universal for a Blu-ray set under their Shout Selects label. This would mark the first time this sequel would be included among the other Pink Panther films that include Peter Sellers. Unfortunately, as of this video, it has since gone out of print. Even Via Vision did a standalone Blu-ray release of Return of the Pink Panther, but that too has surprisingly gone out of print. The best I could currently find in terms of locating this particular set was a DVD version of the Shout Select set, but it doesn't carry over the bonus features from the Blu-ray, which feels disappointing given the bulk of information it provides. If you can find a copy of this particular Blu-ray set, I highly recommend giving a listen to the audio commentaries that involve Jason Simos of the Peter Sellers Appreciation Society. He is full of behind-the-scenes information that is very engaging and is never dull for a moment. Unfortunately, as much as I'd love to give my final verdict and say own the set, this one seems to be going for astronomically high prices on various third-party sellers like eBay, Amerikai, and Amazon. So, if you really want to shell out $300, $500, $700, good bloody luck. Though, taking the collector value out of the equation, final verdict? It's a definite must-watch after you've seen A Shot in the Dark. Of course, I must add that Return of the Pink Panther is not my all-time favorite in the century. That would probably go to the next one, which I hope at some point you'll hear me talk about in the future, if interest provides. For the time being, do me a favor and really check this one out. Because believe me when I say, it is a movie you should see. Cut.
Well, Chief Inspector, until we meet again and the case is solved.
Case is solved, idiot.
What did your father tell you of your obligation?
An oath to his father made him a crusader.
We defend all!
An invincible enemy.
Just 200,000 men, you will be executed.
Made him a leader.
To take this city will be the end of you.
Now, the first great motion picture event of the summer. Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven.